Most people think the reason they work their entire life is because they need money. They are wrong. They work their entire life because they are trapped in a system that was designed to turn time into income and income into dependency. This is not motivation. This is mechanics. If you keep selling your time, the employee trap never ends. You have probably heard the sentence before. If you do not find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. People repeat this line like it is a quote for inspiration. They put it on posters. They put it in Instagram captions. They say it when they talk about success. But very few people understand what this sentence actually means. It is not advice. It is not philosophy. It is a mathematical warning. You are living inside a system where your income is directly connected to the number of hours you can stay alive, awake, and useful to someone else. And the moment your time stops, the money stops. That is the employee trap. Most of you watching this right now wake up at a specific time every morning. You go to a building you did not design. You follow rules you did not create. You complete tasks you did not choose. And at the end of the month, someone gives you a number called a salary. You think this is stability. You think this is responsibility. You think this is how the world works. But from the perspective of someone who owns assets, this behavior looks completely different. It looks like a loop. You are exchanging the only thing that cannot be replaced for something that disappears the moment you spend it. Time is a finite inventory. Imagine you owned a store where you only had 24 products on the shelf every day. Not 24 boxes, not $4, 24 hours. Once those hours are gone, the store is closed. You cannot restock. You cannot borrow more. You cannot manufacture more. That is the life of an employee. Your income is limited by your biological capacity. You can get a better job. You can get a higher salary. You can become highly skilled. You can charge more per hour. But you are still selling hours. You can become a lawyer charging $500 an hour. You can become a surgeon making thousands per day. You can become a consultant billing corporations. The moment you stop working, the meter stops running. This is not a personal failure. This is how the system is designed. To understand why the employee trap never ends, you have to understand where the employee mindset comes from. It does not start at work. It starts much earlier. It starts in school. Think about your childhood for a moment. You were trained to sit in a chair for hours. You were trained to wait for instructions. You were trained to ask for permission before speaking. You were trained to complete assignments given by someone above you. You were rewarded for obedience. You were punished for questioning. Nobody taught you how money works. Nobody taught you how ownership works. Nobody taught you how systems create wealth. You were trained to become efficient at following orders. That is not education. That is conditioning. Modern education was built during the industrial age. Factories needed workers who could follow routines. Armies needed soldiers who could obey commands. Offices needed employees who could sit still all day. So the system produced exactly that. People who are very good at doing what they are told. When you graduate, the training continues. You get your first job. You get your first paycheck. You feel relief. For the first time, money comes in regularly. The 15th, the 30th, every month. Your brain relaxes. Predictability feels safe. But that safety has a price. A salary is not just income. It is a psychological contract. Once your life depends on that monthly number, you stop thinking like an owner. You start thinking like a worker protecting his position. You buy a car that requires the paycheck. You rent an apartment that requires the paycheck. You take loans that require the paycheck. Now you cannot leave. Not because you are weak, because the system is closed. This is the real employee trap. It is not the job. It is the dependency. Look at what happens during a recession. A company changes strategy. A department gets cut. Technology replaces a role. Someone who worked 20 years suddenly has no income. He has experience. He has loyalty. He has effort. But he does not have assets. He has no system working for him. He has no income without his time. So the fall is immediate. This is what happens when your entire life is built on selling hours. It works perfectly until it stops working. And when it stops fast. Today we are going to break this pattern. We are not talking about quitting your job tomorrow. That would be emotional. We are talking about uninstalling the employee operating system from your mind. We are going to look at the math behind the trap. We are going to look at why the system rewards owners and punishes workers. We are going to look at why time Based income always has a ceiling. And most importantly, we are going to understand why the employee trap never ends unless you change the way you think about money. You do not need to stop working today, but you need to stop thinking like an employee today. Because the moment your identity is tied to a paycheck, your freedom is tied to someone else's decision. And as long as you keep selling time, the trap stays closed. Most people think the game is unfair because of corruption, because of politics, because of rich people protecting themselves. That is only part of the story. The real reason the employee trap never ends is not corruption. It is math. You are playing a game where the rules automatically push workers down and pull owners up, even if nobody is cheating. To see this clearly, you have to stop thinking emotionally and start thinking mechanically. Let us look at the first rule of the system, the tax rule. In almost every country on earth, there are different types of income: salary income, business income, investment income. Most employees never notice the difference because they only earn one type: salary. When you earn a salary, the money goes through the most expensive path possible. The company pays you. The government takes income tax, then payroll tax, then social contributions, then indirect taxes when you spend the money. Before you even touch your income, a large percentage is gone. Now look at how owners earn money. They receive dividends. They receive capital gains. They receive profit distributions. In many cases, these are taxed at lower rates, sometimes much lower. People get angry when they hear this. They think it is unfair. But the system is not built to be fair. It is built to encourage certain behavior. Governments want investment. They want businesses. They want assets being built. They do not need more people trading hours for wages. So the rules reward ownership and penalize labor. If you stay in the employee loop your entire life, you stay on the most expensive side of the system. This is not personal. This is structural. Now look at the second rule. Inflation. This is the silent pressure that keeps employees running but never arriving. When new money enters the economy, prices do not rise evenly. Assets move first. Stocks go up. Real estate goes up. Businesses become more valuable. Who owns those things? Owners, investors, people who already have capital. Later, consumer prices move. Food becomes expensive. Fuel becomes expensive. Rent becomes expensive. Who feels that first? Employees. Now ask yourself one question. When prices go up, does your salary go up at the same speed? Usually not. Wages are slow. Companies wait. Budgets take time. Raises are delayed. By the time your income increases, your purchasing power has already dropped. You feel like you are working harder every year, but life does not get easier. This is not because you are lazy. It is because you are on the wrong side of the equation. Owners benefit from inflation. Workers chase inflation. And the employee trap keeps turning. Now we come to the most important rule: linear income versus exponential income. This rule alone explains why selling time never leads to real freedom. When you sell time, your income grows in a straight line. 1 hour equals 1 unit of pay. 10 hours equals 10 units of pay. If you want more money, you need more hours. But there is a limit. Your body has a limit. Your day has a limit. Your energy has a limit. You cannot work 30 hours a day. So your income always has a ceiling. Even if the ceiling is high, it is still a ceiling. Now look at how owners earn. They build something once, and it keeps producing. A business sells while the owner sleeps. A stock pays dividends without effort. A piece of software runs without the creator present. This is exponential income. The output is not tied to the hours. It is tied to the system. If you are a highly paid employee, you are still linear. If you stop, the money stops. If you own a system, the system keeps running. This is why two people with the same intelligence can end up in completely different lives. One keeps selling time. One starts owning outcomes. One gets older and more tired. The other gets older and richer. The difference is not talent, it is structure. Now the question becomes uncomfortable. If the math is so clear, why do most people stay employees their entire life? Why do smart people fight to get jobs that lock them into this loop? Why do people with degrees, skills, and ambition still sell their time until retirement? The answer is not money. The answer is psychology. The employee trap does not survive because it makes sense. It survives because it feels safe. And the moment something feels safe, the brain stops asking questions. In the next part, we are going to look at the psychology of the paycheck and why the monthly salary can become one of the strongest addictions in modern life. Now we have to talk about the part nobody wants to admit. The employee trap does not survive because of economics. It survives because of human psychology. Even when the math is against them, even when the system is clearly designed to limit them, most people still choose the paycheck. Not because they are stupid, because the paycheck changes the way the brain works. The first psychological chain is predictability. Human beings are wired to avoid uncertainty. Thousands of years ago, uncertainty meant death. No food meant starvation. No shelter meant danger. So the brain evolved to prefer stability over opportunity. A salary gives you stability. Every month the number appears, same date, same account, same pattern. Your brain relaxes. It stops scanning for danger. It stops searching for alternatives. It stops imagining different paths. You feel safe. But safety has a side effect. When the brain feels safe, it becomes passive. Think about the difference between a hunter and a pet. A hunter wakes up and does not know if he will eat. So he stays alert. He watches the environment. He learns. He adapts. A pet knows food will come at the same time every day. So it sleeps. It waits. It becomes dependent. Many employees live like the pet, not the hunter. Not because they want to, because the system rewards predictability. Once your life depends on the monthly check, your decisions start to change. You choose the safe option. You avoid risk. You avoid uncertainty. You avoid building something new. You protect the paycheck. This is how the loop closes. Now, the second psychological trap is identity. Companies do not only pay you money, they pay you status, titles, positions, roles, manager, senior manager, director, vice president. These words cost the company nothing. But to the human mind, they feel valuable. You tell people what you do. They respect you. They nod. They say that sounds important. And slowly your identity becomes connected to your job. Now, leaving the job feels like losing yourself. Even if you are unhappy, even if you are stressed, even if you know you are stuck, you stay because the title makes you feel secure. This is one of the strongest chains in the employee trap. Not money, not skill, identity. I have seen people stay in jobs they hate for 10 years just to keep the title on their business card. They would rather keep the status than build freedom. The third psychological trap is business. In the employee world, being busy is seen as success. If someone asks how you are, you say, I am very busy. I have a lot of work. Things are crazy right now. And people respect that. But business is not the same as progress. Business often means you are trapped inside a system you did not design. Look at the difference between a worker and an owner. The worker is always moving, meetings, emails, deadlines, tasks. The owner is often quiet, thinking, reading, deciding, building. From the outside, the worker looks productive. From the inside, the owner is building leverage. Most employees never get out of the loop because they are too busy surviving it. They work all week. They recover on the weekend. They repeat the cycle. Week after week, year after year. There is no time left to build something different. And this is exactly how the system keeps you inside. Now, the fourth trap is lifestyle dependency. This is where the cage becomes invisible. When your income increases, your life expands. You move to a better apartment. You buy a better car. You take bigger loans. You spend more every month. At first, it feels like progress. But what actually happened is this: your expenses grew to match your salary. Now you cannot leave. Not because the job is good, because the cost of leaving is too high. You are not working for freedom anymore. You are working to maintain the structure you built around the paycheck. This is why the employee trap never ends. Every raise makes the cage more comfortable. Every promotion makes the exit harder. Every new expense makes the risk bigger. Until one day you realize something. You have been working for 20 years, but you are still dependent on the next paycheck. That realization is painful. But it is also the moment when the operating system can change. Because once you see the trap clearly, you cannot pretend it is not there. In the next part, we are going to install a different way of thinking. Not motivation, not slogans. A different operating system. The owner mindset. Now we need to replace the employee operating system with something else. You cannot escape a trap just by hating the trap. You escape by understanding the rules of the game better than the game understands you. The owner mindset is not about working harder. It is about changing what you work for. Employees work for income. Owners work for assets. That sounds simple, but the difference changes everything. The first rule of the owner operating system is equity. If you remember only one idea, remember this one. You will never become free by renting out your time. Freedom comes from owning something that produces without you. When you earn a salary, you are paid once. When you own equity, you can be paid again and again. Think of every dollar you earn as a worker. You can send that worker to buy something, and that worker disappears forever. Or you can send that worker into an investment, and now that worker starts bringing back more workers. This is how wealth actually grows, not from effort, from ownership. Look at someone who works 40 hours a week for 30 years. He earns money, he pays bills, he repeats the cycle. At the end, he has memories of work, but very little that continues paying him. Now look at someone who spends part of that time building assets. Maybe he buys stocks. Maybe he builds a small business. Maybe he creates something that can be sold many times. At first, his progress looks slow. But over time, the system starts working without him. This is the moment the employee trap begins to break. The second rule is leverage. For most of history, leverage meant of two things. You either used other people's labor or you used borrowed money. Both were difficult. Hiring people requires capital. Borrowing money requires risk. Today, there is a third kind of leverage. Digital leverage, code, media, content, systems. You can build something once and let it run thousands of times. A piece of software can be used by millions. A video can be watched for years. An online product can sell while you sleep. The important part is not the technology. The important part is this. The output is no longer limited by your hours. If your income depends on your presence, you are still in the employee trap, even if you work for yourself. A freelancer who must work every day is still selling time. An owner builds things that continue without constant effort. This is the shift from labor to system. The third rule is thinking in systems instead of tasks. Employees solve problems one by one. Owners build structures that solve problems automatically. If you have to do the same work every day, you do not have a system. You have a job. A system means the result happens even when you are not there. Look at any large company. The owner does not flip every switch. The owner does not answer every email. The owner does not do every task. The owner builds processes that keep running. You need to start thinking the same way, even on a small scale. If you are earning money only when you are active, you are still inside the loop. If your income continues when you are not working, you are starting to move out of it. This does not happen in one day. This happens slowly. First you earn, then you save, then you invest, then you build. Then the system begins to carry part of the load. Most people never reach this stage because they stay in survival mode too long. They work, they spend, they repeat. They never create space for ownership. And without ownership, the employee trap never ends. Now this brings us to the hardest question. If the owner mindset is so powerful, why do people stay employees even after they understand this? Because understanding the trap is one thing. Escaping the trap is another. You still have bills. You still have responsibilities. You still need income today. You cannot just walk away. So the real question is not how to quit your job. The real question is how to escape without destroying your life. In the next part, we are going to talk about escape velocity, the point where your time no longer controls your income, and the employee trap finally starts to open. Understanding the trap is easy. Escaping the trap is difficult. Not because the exit is hidden, because the exit requires discipline that most people never develop. You cannot leave the employee system in one jump. You leave it in stages. There is a point where your income no longer depends entirely on your time. A point where losing your job would not destroy your life. A point where you can choose to work instead of needing to work. That point is what I call escape velocity. In physics, a rocket needs to reach a certain speed to leave the planet. If it goes slower than that speed, gravity pulls it back down. The same thing happens with money. If all of your income comes from your job, gravity keeps you inside the employee loop. You can try harder. You can work longer. You can get promoted. But you are still inside the same field of force. Escape velocity happens when your assets start producing enough to carry part of your life. Not all, just part. That is the beginning of freedom. Most people try to escape the wrong way. They get frustrated. They get angry at their boss. They quit their job without a plan. This is emotional thinking. Emotional decisions destroy financial progress. You do not burn the bridge while you are standing on it. Your job is not the enemy. Your job is the fuel. The mistake employees make is that they use all their fuel to stay alive, instead of using some of it to build a way out. Look at what most people do after work. They are tired. They watch something. They scroll. They sleep. The weekend comes. They recover from the week. They spend money. They rest. Then Monday comes again. Nothing changes. Year after year, the same cycle. Now look at the mindset of someone trying to reach escape velocity. He keeps the job. He keeps the paycheck. But he changes what the free hours mean. Evenings become building time. Weekends become investment time. Spare money becomes capital. Not because he loves working more, because he wants the system to change. This is the phase where most people quit. It feels slow. It feels unfair. It feels like nothing is happening. But this is exactly how escape velocity is built. You save, you invest, you build something small. You make mistakes. You learn. At first, the extra income is tiny. It does not replace the job. It does not change your life. But something important starts to happen. Your dependence on the paycheck becomes weaker. You realize that money can come from more than one place. That realization alone changes the way you walk into work. You are no longer there because you must be. You are there because you choose to be. And when that happens, the trap starts to open. There is another moment that keeps many people stuck, the promotion trap. Just when you start building something outside your job, the system offers you more comfort, a raise, a better title, more responsibility. It looks like progress, but often it is another chain. More money, but less time. More status, but more pressure. More comfort, but less freedom. Many people accept the promotion and stop building their exit. Not because they want to stay, because the new salary makes the cage comfortable again. You have to be very honest with yourself here. Sometimes the next step in the company is actually a step deeper into the trap. There is nothing wrong with working. There is nothing wrong with having a job. The danger is when the job becomes the only path you have. Freedom comes when work becomes a choice, not a necessity. Now I want you to imagine something. Imagine you are very old. You are sitting somewhere quiet. Your working years are finished. You cannot go back. You cannot redo decisions. You can only look back at the life you built. Ask yourself one question. Did you spend your time building your own system, or did you spend your time maintaining someone else's? Did you use your energy to create assets, or did you use your energy to protect a paycheck? Did you choose comfort every time, or did you choose freedom at least once? Time is the only asset you never get back. Money can return, jobs can return, opportunities can return. Time does not. Every hour you sell is gone forever. This is why the employee trap never ends for most people. Not because they are forced to stay, because they never decide to leave. The door is not locked. It never was. But walking out requires you to think differently, act differently, and accept discomfort for a period of time. Most people will not do that. That is why most people stay in the loop until the end. You still have time. You still have choices. You can keep selling hours, or you can start building something that does not depend on them. The trap continues until the day you decide it does not.